I do have to ask, where is this defence policy? There's only 3 weeks to go. Voting starts on Tuesday. Peter Dutton's saying that, you know, increasing defence spending is one of the key things of his policy platform. Where is it, James Paterson?
Well, Andrew Hastie stood beside Peter Dutton just a week ago in Darwin to announce our plan to take back control of a critical strategic asset. When Anthony Albanese turned up to Darwin a few days ago, he had nothing to offer the people of Darwin or the people of Australia. He's got no plan to take back control of the Port of Darwin, despite dialling in on a late Friday afternoon call to ABC to try and claim that he did. So we won't be taking any lectures from the Labor Party on that. There's not long to wait for our defence policy announcements, but we have made it very clear already that we will increase defence spending because Labor is not meeting the challenge of the moment. They say this is the most dangerous time that Australia has faced since the end of World War II, but their actions don't match it. They've kept defence spending low when it needs to increase. We've already said, for example, we'll spend at least $3 billion on an extra squadron of F-35 fighter jets because they are the most advanced platform in the world today in that domain, and we need more of it to prevent conflict in our region through deterrence.
Well, let's talk about your tax cut announcement in the papers ahead of this launch today. Is this about countering Labor's tax cut, and how long have you planned this announcement for?
Andrew, I nearly fell off my chair when I heard Richard Marles criticise our tax offset, a cost of living tax cut, on the basis that it wasn't going to arrive soon enough. Well, first of all, people are going to get a benefit from day one of the Dutton coalition government. You did, well done. But it was an extraordinary claim from a guy who's offering 70 cents a day in 15 months' time. And of course, we're also offering a petrol and diesel tax cut from the beginning of our government, as soon as that can be legislated, which will see people $14 better off every time they fill up their tank. That's up to $1,500 a year for a family. But secondly, the same time that you'll start to receive 70 cents a day under a re-elected Albanese Labor government, you could receive a tax offset from a coalition government of $1,200, up to $1,200. That is the real relief that Australians need. What we're offering is immediate relief and a long-term plan to restore the standard of living that Australians used to enjoy in this country before the Albanese government did so much harm to it.
All right. This does nothing to address bracket creep for higher income earners who you promised to help after the government's stage 3 rejig, though, does it?
We want to look to address that in time, but the truth is, with the damage that Labor has done to the budget, with their $425 billion of additional spending over the last 3 years, that is going to take time. We are committed to tax reform. We are committed to addressing bracket creep. But our priority early on is to provide the immediate relief for Australians who are struggling right now. We'll do that in terms of the petrol and diesel tax cut. We will also do that in terms of the cost of living tax offset. And over time, we'll look to address those structural issues that have got much worse on Labor's watch. I mean, Richard Marles said when he came to office that there were deficits as far as the eye can see. Well, nothing's changed. There are deficits as far as the eye can see now as well. $1.2 trillion of debt is going to be racked up on this government's watch on the trajectory they planned in their budget only a few weeks ago.
But is this something you've only come up with in recent weeks, the tax offset policy?
We've been considering a range of tax policies over the last few months. We've always had a menu of options to choose from. And we've settled on this one because we think it provides the immediate relief that Australians are crying out for. There are Australians who've run up enormous credit card bills over the last 3 years because they've had to cover the cost of a 30% increase in grocery prices, a 32% increase in electricity prices, a 34% increase in gas prices. Rents are up, insurance is up, everything is up under this government's watch, and they are suffering under that financial burden, and we want to help relieve it. We can't fix all the mess that Labor has done over the last 3 years, but we want to make a significant contribution to restoring the financial position of Australians with this cost of living tax offset.
What do you make of the government's plans to build homes exclusively for first home buyers? Will we see a first home buyers policy from you today?
Well, this is more failed policy from a government that hasn't delivered a single home under its signature housing policies. Their Housing Australia Future Fund hasn't delivered one new home, despite promising to do so, and it was reported yesterday will need a taxpayer-funded bailout just to stay solvent. I mean, this is how bad things have got on this government's watch. They've said over 5 years they're going to build 1.2 million homes, but independent industry estimates are very clear they'll fall around 400,000 homes short of that. So no Australian should have any confidence that this government is going to do any better in its second term on housing affordability than it has in its first term. And yes, we will have more to say about support for first home buyers very soon.
Today?
Well, you just have to wait and see, Andrew, but of course we've outlined a lot in this space already. We're going to take pressure off demand by reducing migration and banning foreign investors from buying homes for 2 years. We're going to reform the building industry, which Labor cannot do, by deregistering the CFMEU and introducing new laws to deal with the lawlessness and corruption that has flourished in that industry under Labor's watch. We're going to deliver a $5 billion fund to fund the infrastructure that's necessary to unlock private development over 500,000 homes over the next few years. And we, of course, have policies already to support first home buyers, including allowing them to access their own superannuation to meet their deposit.
And more today. Now, what do you make of this promise by Labor to guarantee loans for first home buyers if they have a 5% deposit?
Well, of course, the Home Guarantee Scheme is a coalition government initiative. It was introduced in 2020 under the former government, and all this government has done is to tinker with it a little bit. They also have their so-called Help to Buy scheme, but it hasn't helped anyone to buy over the last 3 years because it hasn't even started yet. That's one of the reasons why housing has become so much more unaffordable on Labor's watch. House prices are up, rents are up, and of course this is a government that's brought in more than 1 million people on their watch while not building the homes to accommodate them. So it's no wonder we have a housing crisis. It's no wonder that this government is unable to address it, and the only way we can address it is by voting Liberal and National in 3 weeks' time to get our country back on track.
Well, speaking of which, we've got just under 3 weeks until polling day, and Labor is now at $1.26 to win the election. What's gone wrong for the coalition in this campaign? Why has the opposition waited so long to release policy? Do you think you have enough time to sell your policies now?
Well, one thing I do agree with Richard Marles on is that this election is close, and it will be close. It will come down to a handful of seats, and we've got 3 weeks to go. Many Australians out there have not tuned into the election yet because they're busy in their own lives and they've got other priorities. But as they tune in over the coming weeks, I think they'll find that there's a very significant policy agenda from the opposition that will deliver immediate relief on the cost of living pressures that they're facing and includes a long-term plan to get inflation under control, to start building homes in this country again, to make our communities safe. And I think when they hear that message, I think they'll be very receptive to it and increasingly support the coalition.
You've had some hiccups with candidates. The latest is your Bennelong candidate handing out lollies to children outside of school. The PM launched into that yesterday. What's your view on that? And another hiccup has been revelations this Victorian candidate for Wills got done for obtaining financial deception. Has there been any thought of letting him go?
I'm really proud of the outstanding candidates we've chosen all around the country, including Scott Young in Bennelong. He is an outstanding candidate who's working very hard to represent his community. And we certainly won't be taking any lectures from the party of Jerome Laxale. We know what he got up to in the lead up to the last election. And if it's a question of character, I back Scott Young any day of the week. The reality is that people in Bennelong and around the country have suffered under Labor's watch. They've gone backwards, worse than
James
any other
Paterson,
country in the
just on
OECD,
that,
worse ever in Australia's history.
First of all, can you clarify what you're talking about in relation to Jerome Laxale? And second of all, do you see no problem with the handing out of the lollies?
It's been widely reported in the media the issues with Jerome Laxale and his conduct, and you're well familiar with that, Andrew. I'll leave you and your viewers to Google that and get to the bottom of his behaviour, which hasn't been properly accounted for. But Scott Young is an outstanding candidate. We're very proud of him. We back him every step of the way in Bennelong. And if the people of Bennelong vote for Scott Young and the Liberal Party, they will get our country back on track. They'll get the immediate financial relief that they need. They'll get the long-term plan our country needs to get inflation and cost of living under control and to make their lives better.
No, but I just want to bring you back to this point. So the principal complained. Do you think Scott Young maybe made a little bit of a mistake?
I think it was a completely well-intentioned, innocent thing to do. It's actually quite routine for politicians in the lead up to Easter to set up street stalls and hand out Easter eggs to kids. I think politicians on both sides of the aisle do that. But what I'm really concerned about is the state of our country, Andrew. We have got completely off track on this government's watch. There is a better way. We have a better plan.
And in relation to this candidate from Wills, does he have any concerns? Do you have concerns about him, or are you backing him in 100%?
Look, I've seen the reporting in the media. I'm not familiar with the allegations. We stand by all of our candidates. We're backing them all the way. And if you vote Liberal and National at this election, we will get our country back on track.
All right, well, let me ask you about Ben Britton. That's not ideal, his departure, is it? Is he someone you know? Has he worked as an advisor for you previously? And what do you think of him being ejected as a candidate?
No, Mr Britton has never worked for me in any capacity, and the issues reported in the media about his candidacy are just some of the issues that were identified by the party that didn't come up through the applicant review process, that weren't disclosed appropriately as they should be. We've moved on. We've got a much better candidate now in Whitlam who will help get our country back on track with our strong plan to return our economy to the strength it was under the previous government.
So he never worked as a voluntary advisor or anything of that nature for you?
No, never.
Okay. I want to play this comment your government efficiency spokeswoman Jacinta Price said yesterday.
I'm so proud to be able to stand beside and to ensure that we can make Australia great again, that we can bring Australia back to its former glory, that we can get Australia back on track.
It's widely acknowledged that Donald Trump and comparisons between Peter Dutton and Donald Trump have, which I assume you would say are unfair, have hurt your campaign. That comment wasn't very helpful from Jacinta Price, was it?
Well, Andrew, I believe Australia is the greatest country in the world, but we certainly don't have the best government in the world, and we will not get back on track if the Albanese Labor government is re-elected, particularly if they're re-elected in a hung parliament, in a minority government, and they have to enter into a coalition with Adam Bandt and the Greens, who are extreme, and the Teals, who've got no idea what they stand for and have no plans for the future of our country. I think that would leave Australia weaker and worse off. I think what we need is a strong coalition government led by Peter Dutton and David Littleproud that has the plans that we need to give the immediate financial relief that Australians need and the long-term plan to get the cost of living under control.
Are you hoping to make Australia great again?
Well, that's not my style of politics, Andrew. What we're focused on is the damage that's been done to our country over the last 3 years and the fall in living standard that's occurred on Labor's watch. We've fallen more than any other country in the OECD. We've fallen more than in our country's history ever before. Australians are 8% worse off in terms of their living standards than they were when this government was elected. And Anthony Albanese promised they'd be better off. He even promised cheaper mortgages, Andrew. I don't know how many people you've met over the last 3 years who have cheaper mortgages on Anthony Albanese's watch.